Story of Seasons A Wonderful Life is a remake of the beloved Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life video game released on the GameCube back in 2004 and later re-released for the PS2. There was eventually a Nintendo DS spin-off and another alternate universe GameCube version where you play as a lady instead of a dude. I don't know the exact backstory, but I believe the original creators of Harvest Moon are now making the Story of Seasons video games, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Regardless, Story of Seasons and Harvest Moon games usually follow a very similar formula. They're farming life simulators where you start a farm from scratch, befriend the local townsfolk, start a family, and hopefully become a farming kingpin and expand your empire. Growing up as a kid, I would say there were 4 video games that had the most impact on me and really got me into gaming. Those 4 games were Guitar Hero, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, Super Mario Sunshine, and Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life. Now, if you want to sit back and relax and listen to a grown man in his late 20s talk about a farming life simulator for a few minutes, well, here we go. Now, when I was a kid, I was proper addicted to Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life. This was my very first game I played where it wasn't a linear experience. I decide where I go, I decide what I do in the game with very few restrictions. And at the time, this gameplay style of freedom really blew my mind. I mean, the next closest thing I had to this was Super Mario Sunshine that gave me a hub world to explore and missions I can do in any order I wanted. For years, Harvest Moon was my favorite video game and I received it under kind of weird circumstances. In 3rd grade, my mother and I were couch hopping and we were in the process of moving to Alaska from California, with most of our items in storage, including my beloved GameCube system. One of the houses that we stayed at for a little bit had this really nice kid, and he was a year or 2 older than me. With his GameCube, we played Mario Kart, Mario Party, and Super Smash Bros. And then he eventually showed me this really cool game he had called Harvest Moon Magical Melody. I thought it was so cool. He had his own farm and house and family with the freedom to do whatever he wanted every single day. This was my first experience with a life simulator video game. I was so jealous and envious that he had this video game. I was so intrigued and interested. And he did take notice, he noticed, and he graciously gave me his old copy called A Wonderful Life. My mom and I were going through a very weird and unstable time as we did not have our own place to live in for over a year. We went through some tough times, but I would be so excited with anticipation to eventually play my Harvest Moon game. Honestly, it gave me hope everything would be okay one day. I had the disc in a little Ziploc baggie and I would just stare at it, thinking of the day I can finally play it and everything will be okay. Now, eventually we did get our own place and we got all of our items out of storage and I could finally pop in Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life into my GameCube. And I gotta say, the wait was worth it. I immediately loved this game and I played it non-stop for years. Anyways, dude, I don't remember your name, but if there's a guy out there who remembers living in California during his elementary school days and remembers having a 3rd grader and his mom crash at your mom's place, and you gave away your copy of Harvest Moon for free to that kid, I just want to say thank you. That game really comforted me and it got me through some pretty hard times, man, I gotta say. Anyways, why am I telling you this story in my video game review? Well, I want to give you context for what I'm about to say. I will forever hold this game close to my heart and I will always have an immense amount of nostalgia for Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life. I love this game. All that being said, I don't think this is a very good video game. I'm sorry, I don't think this is a very good video game. I find the content to be lackluster, and at a certain point, the game can become kind of boring. But I still love it, okay? Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons video games have never really been revolutionary franchises pushing the limits of what gaming can be. The games never really made a big impact on the gaming culture or gaming landscape. They don't really take big risks. They're pretty low-key games, they know what they're good at, they stick to what they know, and they have very faithful, passionate fan bases. And you know what, just because I said all that, I'm probably gonna get some angry comments, but whatever, man, fight me. But back in 2004, Harvest Moon was considered a really good and really fun game. You know, I say that, and I compare Harvest Moon to another game that released in 2004 that some people like myself consider a masterpiece, and these games aren't even comparable. They're in 2 completely different fields. Regardless, if Harvest Moon was considered a good game back in 2004, gaming standards have really changed a lot the past 20 years, right? Now, I did go back and replay the original Harvest Moon A Wonderful Life a few years before the remake was even announced. You can play the original PS2 version on the PlayStation Online store, and I can confirm, aside from nostalgia, this game can get pretty boring after a while. Eventually, you do everything the game has to offer, and it's just kind of you're just going through the motions at some point to just get through the next year. But for better or for worse, A Wonderful Life is a very faithful remake. Not a lot has changed here other than the art style and a few quality of life improvements. A Wonderful Life is a slow-paced farming sim. You're meant to take your time and relax because, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to do in the town of Forget-Me-Not Valley. Playing this game got me thinking about the philosophy of video game remakes and why remakes exist and why games are remade to begin with. I believe this game was remade for two reasons. One, give passionate farm life simulator gamers the opportunity to play this game who've never played it before or never had the opportunity to play it before, and give the original fans a remake that we've been wanting for years and stab us in the heart with nostalgia. Anyways, let's talk about the actual game itself. Let's move on to the actual video game review. The biggest change I would say is probably the visuals. The art style is different and most of the characters look relatively the same, but some characters have minor changes and in other characters they have major changes. One character in particular is changed dramatically to reclassify him as a marriage partner instead of just another dude in the world. Most characters have the similar names compared to the original, like Muffy in the original game is now Molly. Just about everything looks the same with a new coat of paint. One huge difference though is the customization of your main character. You can now choose to be a female, a male, or they them. In the original game, you were stuck as a dude and you had to buy a whole separate video game called Another Wonderful Life just to play as a girl. You can change your character's hair, their eyes, their outfits. In the original game, you were stuck with basically the same exact look the entire game. Now, besides the changes to looks, personally, I like this game, but I wish there was more content added to it. Like I said, in the original game, there's not a whole lot to do as far as gameplay mechanics, and this does carry over into the remake. One huge example on how the gameplay could have been improved and expanded upon, at the edge of town, there's this path that leads into the mountains. This is supposed to lead into Mineral Town, which is the title of another Harvest Moon game for the Game Boy, I think. In the original GameCube version, to access the content of Mineral Town, you have to connect your Friends of Mineral Town Game Boy game to your GameCube. I never knew how to do this. So as a kid, I was soft-locked out of this town and I could never access the content. Now in the remake, you can access the town, but it says something like, want to spend a few hours going into town? Then the screen turns black and time skips forward a few hours, indicating your character went into town and had a good time. That's it. That was really disappointing. How hard would it have been to add one more town to this game? I mean, it's 2023 when this game came out, I think. It could have been as simple as adding a few vendors or some NPCs we can say hi to, or just add a new fishing area, something small. It didn't have to be big, just add something. But no, they just added nothing. The townsfolk talk about going into town and doing shopping and fun stuff, and as a kid, I felt so left out. This was a part of the world I could never access, and it sucked. And now as an adult, I still feel excluded, and I still can't access the town. This is just another example of the game could have been improved upon and could have been expanded upon, but they just chose not to, and they chose the really safe option, which I guess, I don't know. And once again, this goes back to like the philosophy of remakes. Like my favorite video game of all time, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, is getting a remake here soon in a few months. There's like two different philosophies for a remake. You change the game for a modern audience to introduce a new audience so the game can live and thrive in the modern gaming landscape, right? The game has to be changed enough so modern gamers want to play it and purchase your game, and your game can thrive, right? But then you also want to appease the original fans, and you don't piss them off and say, oh, they changed too much, the game isn't even noticeable anymore. So there's like this very fine balance between the two. I'm not sure where Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life sits on that scale. Like, they did not change enough, I think. I personally would have wanted to see a lot more change, but you know what? Respect to them. They chose the route of, let's just appease the original gamers and don't change anything. So, I don't know. I would have liked to see this game be more modern, and because this game does feel kind of out of date. I don't know. As a fan myself, a huge fan of the original, I would have liked to see more added. That's my personal opinion. So I'm editing the video right now, and I am kind of harsh with my words, and I'm kind of making it seem like they didn't add anything for you to do in the game. They did add a couple new things for you to do, and one huge new thing is the task board. The citizens of Forget-Me-Not Valley will put up a task for you to do on a board. It's usually bringing them a farm product, and they will reward you with an item of their own. And this is actually really cool, and it gives you another goal to work towards. Anyways, let's talk about actually playing the video game, I guess. The farming mechanics are very simple, just like the original. You have a couple sets of land for crops, either fruits or veggies, and once it's time to harvest your crops, that gets a little more fun because you get a little more freedom to figure out what you want to do with them. You can sell them, give them away as gifts, insert your crops into the seed maker and have an endless supply of seeds. You can make meals and recipes. There are a lot of cool recipes to cook. The recipes sell for more money, and they give you more stamina if you eat them. Now this brings me to one huge quality of life improvement. There's actually a stamina bar. In the original game, your character will get tired if they're low on stamina, or if it's like past their bedtime or something like that. You get a little animation to indicate your dude is hungry or tired, and almost every single action requires stamina. So in the remake, it is really nice to see an actual representation and a stamina bar. Other than crops, you have your usual representation of farm animals to take care of and profit from their natural resources. You have your cows, your bulls, goats, sheep, chickens, ducks, and a horse. In the original game, your cows would eventually run out of milk and you'd have to set up the whole breeding process again to access more milk in the future. And as time goes on, the quantity and quality of the milk goes down until it runs out. Now, milk never runs out, but the quantity and quality still goes down over time until it hits the minimum. Regardless, this is a huge positive change because trying to manage the milk in the original game was honestly a pain in the butt. Now you can still have the option of getting your cow pregnant so they can give you higher quality milk, but in the meantime they still give you low quality milk to hold you off, I guess. Now bulls are pretty much the same, I think. You pair a bull up with a cow and then they can give birth to a calf. You can get more expensive and rare breeds of calf depending on the breed of your cow and bull. You can do a couple different things with the milk that your cows give you. You can cook with it, eat it, give it away as a gift, or turn it into cheese and butter. Chickens are pretty much the same. They lay 1 egg a day, and you get the possibility of a fertilized egg if you have a rooster, or a rare gold egg. And sheep are basically the same too. You brush them multiple times a day to get a chance of gold wool. Now, probably the biggest change when it comes to farm animals is the goats. The goats are no longer useless after 1 year. In the original game, you can purchase 1 goat and it gives you milk for about a year, and that was it. You cannot sell it, you cannot breed it, you can't get more milk in the future. It is literally a useless mouth to feed. It's a decoration piece at that point. I know that sounds mean because it is an animal, but I'm trying to manage a profit off of this farm and become a farming kingpin. And this goat is just standing there, staring at me, waiting for a free meal and gives me nothing in return. The goat was a pain in the ass in the original game. I mean, I have seen players online purposely starve their goats and let them pass away of natural causes. You have a limited amount of animals you can have in your barn, and if you can't sell the goat, you can't get rid of it, the only thing to really do is let it pass away. But I can never actually do that. I just lived with a useless goat, and to be honest, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to actual farming. It's pretty basic. Harvest your crops and tend to your animals. I mean, you can cuddle them and give them affection that raises your chance of getting higher tier resources in return. You can put them outside and they can eat like the natural grass outside, but yeah, it's pretty much the same. I mean, you can brush them, but yeah. Now, besides farming, there are other activities we can profit from outside of the farm. You can forage for natural plants like flowers or wild food. Flowers are a great gift to win over any people as friends or marriage candidates. The wild food is useful for recipes and for eating to raise your stamina. Now, when you're out in the wild, probably the most valuable tool in the entire game is the fishing rod. There are a few areas to fish in the wild, and this is like the most profitable resource the area has to give you. And right off the bat, this is one of my most favorite improvements to this game. We can actually fish in the ocean. I know that sounds crazy. What, you can't fish in the ocean in the original game? No, you can't. There's this beautiful ocean and beautiful beach, but it's literally useless. Just like the goat, it's just there to take up space and look pretty. The ocean was literally useless in the original game. I literally had no reason to ever visit the beach, but now I do. And the beach gives us new fish species too. That's really awesome. So overall, I believe there are 6 different areas to fish in the wild. The ocean, the pond, the spring, waterfall, upper river and lower river. Each area offers different types of fish species, and fishing in video games is one of my favorite mini games or activities ever. I love fishing in video games, I don't know why. I give any video game a higher score if it offers fishing. Unfortunately, the fishing mini game in A Wonderful Life is pretty boring and basic. This is a common theme throughout the entire game. A lot of things in this game are basic and boring, kind of. This is really a chill, relax, turn your brain off kind of game, just to relax. Here in this game, you toss your line in the water and you wait to push the action button at the right time. That's it. No bait, no mini game, no button mashing, nothing. Just 2 button pushes. I mean, it's a lot more peaceful and calm compared to the Stardew Valley stressful fishing minigame. But I would have preferred something, man. Anything. Like I said, fishing is the main source of income outside of your farm, but you also have the option of digging in the mines. And once again, it is very basic. Other farm simulator games give you the option to usually dig deeper in the mines and explore and get deeper in the caves for better loot. Not here. You have one level and you just go around to each square and push the action button to dig. The cave does get bigger as the years goes on, but that's really it. Once again, something they could have expanded upon and improved, but they decided not to. Besides that, there's not a whole lot else to do in Forget-Me-Not Valley. I mean, there's festivals and holidays to take part in, but they're usually just a cutscene that lasts a minute or two, and there's no real interaction with them. It's just kind of, you get a cutscene, and it ends, and that's it. I mean, in the town of Forget-Me-Not Valley, you can walk around and talk to the townsfolk, and give them gifts, and raise your friendship levels, or your marriage levels. Now, in the original game, this did not exist, but in the remake, now we have a relationship bar, to show the level of affection you have with each townsfolk, and this is awesome. Once again, like a stamina bar, having a relationship bar to represent your relationship with each character, this is awesome. Because usually each townsfolk character has hidden special items you can only get by befriending them. Now you know exactly how close you are to befriending them. In Forget-Me-Not Valley, there are some very interesting characters and some freaks and geeks to befriend and get to know. Speaking of relationships, you can get married in this game, and here we see one of the biggest differences compared to the original game. The remake gives you the option of 8 different marriage candidates, and you can be gay in this game, which I think is really cool. I know the game isn't woke now. Gay people exist in the world. They may not be in your life. Inclusivity is important for other people. The game doesn't throw a gay flag in your face, so if you really are offended by gay marriage, first of all, go F yourself and stop watching my video and reevaluate your life choices and lifestyle. And then you can literally just ignore all the gay aspects, okay? Regardless, this is really cool to see all the marriage candidates being expanded upon. They changed most of the male candidates to be more attractive because in the original, they were all pretty ugly. Another change is, once you have a baby, you can either have a boy or a girl. I don't know if it's up to luck or you have a chance of changing it or whatever, but it's cool that you can have either or. Now, getting a sweetheart in this game is more or less the same. You find out what they like and you give them a gift every single day. Each character has exclusive cutscenes you can encounter as your crush grows to love. Getting a sweetheart in this game is more or less the same. You find out what they like and you give them a gift every single day. Each character has their own exclusive cutscenes you can encounter as your crush grows to love. And they're all kinda cute and they have optional dialogue for you to choose. Now, once you snag a honey, you get a kid, which is really cute. Depending on how you interact with them and who you marry, their personal interests change. And now with that, I believe that is everything the game has to offer, and that's all the thoughts I have to offer for my review of the game. I personally really like this game, but as a gamer and a nerd, I know this is not a very good game. It is pretty lackluster content, and it can get a little repetitive and boring after a while. The game will mostly be enjoyed by fans who love the original and grew up playing it. Anyone playing it for the very first time, I think personally will be a little disappointed. I really wish they added more content to make more significant changes to the gameplay. I mean, the main bread and butter is growing your farm from a rinky-dink little farm with no crops and one cow, and growing it into a huge, freaking ginormous farm and growing a family with the honey you choose in town. I mean, that's the main bread and butter, and once you upgrade your farm to everything the game has to offer, then there really isn't anything more to do. You can get the most rare cows, upgrade all your facilities, and it's kind of it. I don't know. Now, personally, I haven't played a Harvest Moon or Story of Seasons game in a long time, but I imagine the newer titles have more content than this from 20 years ago. The last game I did play was on the DS and the Wii, so I don't know what the new games are like, but I imagine the content is more than what this game has to offer. But with remakes, like I said earlier, there's always a fine line to balance, and I understand they want to stay on the stay faithful to the original game part of the line. Drastically change the gameplay and attract new fans for a more modern audience, or appease the old fans and make the game as faithful as possible with very few changes. And the devs decided on the latter, which, you know what, I can respect. Thank you for listening to a grown-ass man talk about a farming simulator game for, gosh, this was a lot longer than I expected it to be. What, 20 minutes? Sorry if you heard my baby making noise in the background, but as a parent, that's just the way things have to be. Sorry, not sorry. And also, I'm testing out a microphone for this review. Usually, I just review these things on my iPhone, but today I have a mic, so let me know how it sounds. Thank you, and goodbye. Something I said earlier in the review was kind of harsh. I said the Harvest Moon games never really revolutionized the video game landscape, but one of the best video games of all time, and one of my favorite video games, Stardew Valley, was heavily influenced by old school Harvest Moon games and A Wonderful Life. So I guess the Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons games were pretty influential on the video game landscape as a whole because of Stardew Valley, so I'm forever grateful for that. And during my video, I really wanted to stay away from any Stardew Valley comparisons because that wouldn't be fair. Stardew Valley is easily the best farming life simulator of all time, and nothing is ever going to top it unless the creator ever makes Stardew Valley 2.